Live from Austin, Texas, broadcasting worldwide, it's Alex Jones.
I'm just an average man with an average life. I work from 9 to 5. Hey, hell, I pay the price. All I want is to be left alone in my average home. But why do I always feel like I'm in the twilight zone? And I always feel like somebody's watching me, and I have no privacy. Oh, I always feel like somebody's watching me.
Well, Martina Markota is a fellow thought criminal. She's been on the show before. Very smart lady, also very lovely. And she's a talented dancer and exhibitionist. And she is also, again, somebody that has to be silenced. So you have to understand something, ladies and gentlemen. A global corporate system is testing a planetary social credit score, which is basically digital minders, digital spy systems, digital control, where if you don't play ball in cyberspace or in the real world, you then get demonized, and then you start getting unpersoned. And I have the articles right here in my stack today. China bans millions from flights, trains in social credit crackdown. That's a big Zero Hedge article, and it links directly to the communist Chinese newspapers, who are very, very proud of this. Now, in my film, Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement, I said in the near future, if you haven't played ball with the globalists and you haven't done what they want socially, they will not let you buy or sell. I didn't get that from the Bible. I got it from their own statements. But it is interesting that the Bible's coming true. It's either real or they're building it, which makes it real. So either way, it's still real. It's incredible. So this is the big threat to everyone. Banks not letting you bank if you sell hunting supplies at your hardware store, or the NRA. And the fact that people aren't organizing against this is absolutely incredible. So I want to go to our guest, and I want to ask her, Martina, to tell folks a little bit about yourself, because if I tell it, it won't be as good as if you tell it. And I think your main crime is you've been successful. You've reached hundreds of millions of people. You have millions of fans. And so it's because you're effective at exposing this corrupt system that you're now being unpersoned. People say, well, just go get another bank account. Oh, no, this means they've put an hate rating. And when I file suit, you're going to need to, obviously join our class action suit. They've put a hate rating in there that has nothing to do with your real activity. And so they have implemented the Chinese-style control grid on you by stealth. So you are definitely a victim of this. Not that you want to be a victim. We're not in the victim class here, but it's because we're not in the victim class. They want to make us victims. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely, I was a performer in New York City, and they were not happy that I was a Trump supporter and a conservative in general. So they blacklisted me, kicked me out of the scene, and they really went after my income that way extremely, extremely hard. So I had to move on and figure out what else am I going to do with my career. And the only thing, since my reputation was tarnished, was to get involved in media and expose this stuff and just stick up for our side. So I've been doing that. So them trying to ruin my life didn't work as well as they planned. So I actually have a business account with Chase. I've had it for 8 years. It's an LLC. And so I talk about arts and culture, because you know how important that is. Politics is downstream from culture. And there's something called Comicsgate, which is pretty much Gamergate, but in the comics industry. So there's a lot of people that went away from DC and Marvel's extreme SJW left-wing propaganda with their failing comics, and a lot of these people went independent, and they started going on Indiegogo and creating independent comics and doing it incredibly well. They have went head-to-head with DC and Marvel, and they made like $2 million since this past summer, cumulatively altogether. So I wanted to keep pursuing my performing kind of persona, Lady Alchemy. So I did a comic book with these comic skaters. And
how dare you?
Yeah. And my Chase business account is linked with that Indiegogo, and we did incredibly well. We're so far over $34,000.
Wow. Trying to raise money, trying to publish books. How un-American.
Yeah. So when I got the letter that my business account is being closed down, I was really freaked out because I said, this is my one thing that I have. They tried to get rid of me in every single way possible, run me out of New York City, ruin all my career opportunities. So now I have this new opportunity amongst a group of the comic skaters that, are doing incredibly well. So that it's a really interesting thing because, the left keep trying to tear us down. But the one industry, ironically, that we are kicking butt in is the arts. It's the comic book industry. So we're doing really, really
because
well.
Because the left aren't the left. They aren't the liberals. They're not creative. They always pose as if they're the real liberals and they control art because they're the opposite of a real liberal. They're leftist control freaks who destroy civilization. So that's why they always want to be in charge of the arts and in charge of speech, is because they don't have any talent.
Yeah, and I think that they're really afraid because this Comicsgate is doing so well. They really try to shut us down all the time. They keep going after a lot of the big independent creators, trying to shut them down, go after them. And they've been fighting it. They actually, one of them did a tortious interference. So when you go after them legally, that shows them they can't do this. So that's a really good method of going after someone that's trying to mess with your contracts and mess with you professionally. And so when I got this letter, I was really, really upset because it's tied to my comic book and what we're doing with Comicsgate. And it could have essentially shut it all down. But luckily, Indiegogo's working with me. But yeah, so it's bigger than just, get another bank. I mean, I think they were really targeting me because we're doing something here. We're kicking ass in the arts. And I wasn't sure if it was political. So I got the letter and I said, how could this be? It's all legal activity. I don't have any criminal record. Everything is up to par. I've had this account for 8 years. Why is this happening? And so I called them and they wouldn't tell me why. They said that they have the right to, if you see the letter, it says, we're ending our relationship with you. And I was like, okay, my bank is breaking up with me.
Well, I'll tell you the problem. Let's scroll back up to the top. Anything they target is what they can track virally is already number one or is going to be number one. Like I've been number one on all these different platforms, so they banned me. Number one on the App Store right when our news app launched a month before the ban. And let's go back to the comic book. Let's go to that top one. That looks like world-class art. You look powerful. You also look sexy. You got a sword in your hand. This is everything the left is afraid of, because I wouldn't even call you a right-winger or left-winger. You're just a pro-freedom person. They're scared of that. This is what would actually target their demographic, but with freedom. So this is a badge of honor that they're coming after you because what you're doing is obviously powerful.
Yeah, and after that happened to me and I posted about it, I started noticing that the Proud Boy guy had his Chase Bank. It was Chase, and it had the same letter as me. Then I noticed Joe Biggs, and I started noticing all these other stories of Chase targeting people that were in my scene, people I knew. And so that was when I said, okay, there's something more to this. But they refused to tell me exactly why. They said that they reserved the right to end our relationship and not tell me why. And I think it's a reputational risk.
Well, isn't that a Kafka-esque situation? Is that they won't even tell you the thought crime you've committed? Well, let me tell you what's happened, because we got the secret documents. And this is going to be coming out soon in a lawsuit. I'm going to give the enemy a heads up. It's very simple. You get listed by the Southern Poverty Law Center or anybody else. They then, in this secret banking cartel, it's tied into Interpol, you name it, they put an H symbol in your file. You don't get told about it. You don't know. It's a secret blacklist with the banks, and then it's going to move on to, I'm sure you've heard about Uber banning people, these different Airbnb groups banning people.
Yeah, that happened to me. That happened to me in D.C. too. Actually, my Uber just stopped working at one point.
Yeah, that's it. And so they've got a database of the Chinese social credit score that they go put a fraudulent conviction on your record. A secret court, a secret file, a secret database out of Boston. They go put it on the file, and then now other groups are joining it. It's like InfraGard. It's part of the FBI. And then as other groups join it, sure, there's secret lists for Al-Qaeda or ISIS. It's the same thing. You've been put on an ISIS list.
I believe it. I truly, truly believe it. And I didn't want to get into that, and I didn't want to assume and go, oh, it's because I'm a free thinker that this is happening. But the evidence is really starting to show that they're really targeting us, and it's really scary because going after your bank account, going after your business is serious.
Well, this is the good news. It's so criminal, they keep it secret. It's not going to be secret much longer. You understand? I've got more lawyers flying in today. We're going to decide when and how, but I'm giving the enemy heads up. We're getting all the witnesses, all the documents. We have everything. National scandal. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Dan Pilla. I started fighting the IRS over 40 years ago when they tried to seize my mother's house. I sued the IRS and won. I beat the IRS then, and I've been beating them ever since. I wrote the book on tax debt settlement, and I've helped thousands of people deal with tax problems they thought might never be solved. I can help you too. If you owe taxes you can't pay, don't wait another day. There's no such thing as a hopeless tax case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX or go to my website, danpilla.com. That's danpilla.com.
Smollett, if his false flag would have been successful, now under criminal investigation by the FBI for higher-ups directing him in the Democratic Party, as well as the people controlling the hit show Empire. It'd be an even bigger hit if the hoax would have been carried out. But it was too obvious, too childish, and too well documented. But imagine if he'd been successful. Now, everyone with the red hat, every white person, we're all horrible race criminals who deserve to have our bank accounts taken, who deserve to be shut down, who deserve to be made to submit until we're offered the road to redemption. Last week, I had 3 very high-powered people call me, 2 of them household names, and they said, Alex, there's a road for redemption, and there's open arms. I'm sorry. It's just that we have to admit how bad this is. We're going to go back to our guest. I want to ask her to ride shotgun into the next segment, if she can, with Faith Goldy, because they're both going through the same crap, because they're smart, good-looking women. That scares the hell out of leftists. They want a bunch of victims they control, with a bunch of chicken neck, weird feminists dominating them, making sure they're miserable as possible, and not using their feminine power. But let's go right back, just real quick, to Smollett and all of his fake garbage. Here it is.
Let's, I was talking to a friend, and I said, I just want them to find them. And she said, sweetie, they're not going to find them. And that just made me so angry, because so I'm just going to be left here with this? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just going to be left here with like, so they get to go free and go about their life and possibly attack someone else. And I'm here to left with the aftermath of this bull.
Yeah.
That's not cool to me. That's not okay. So I understand how difficult it will be to find them. But I still want to believe, with everything that has happened, that there's something called justice. Because if I stop believing that, then what's it all for? Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Chelsea. Oh, my God, Chelsea, this is so hot right now. Meanwhile, the UN openly funded, with Obama, the murder of hundreds of thousands in the Arab Spring, tens of thousands of women and children in sex slavery. You got Madeleine Albright on TV saying 500,000 kids are a good price to pay for, quote, security in the Gulf. There's no thank you, Jesse, to that. So going back to our guest, who has been basically unpersoned off of her bank account, Martina Markota, who's at Twitter for now and Instagram at Martina Markota, Markota, and MartinaMarkota.com. Again, you're involved in hit comic books. That's your real crime, because most people don't get their news even from Comedy Central anymore. They get it from the comic books. You're breaking into verboten, archetypal, Joseph Campbell type symbolism and alchemy, and that's really your crime, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm actually also in Trump Space Force. I think you know Timothy Lim and them. So check out that. But my book has the occult symbolism of the elite, and my character is like, she becomes red-pilled and discovers the hidden influences of media and advertising that's saturated in cities and stuff like that. And so it's about exposing that sort of thing. And I think it's super fun. It's not very much like leftist art where they go out of their way to make sure you see their SJW agenda. It's just fun for anyone to watch, but I am kind of secretly, hiddenly exposing some things.
And again, it's the delivery system they really hate. So where do you go from here? Because obviously we'll need to talk soon because we are going to have to file suit against these folks. I mean, this is a big national criminal operation. Think about when the public learns that there's a secret database and they're preparing to put all conservatives on it.
Yeah, I truly believe that. And I cannot believe that that is really something where we're at today. I mean, I remember watching you many, many years ago talking about this sort of stuff when you had Billy Corrigan on. I've always liked, the arts and stuff and watching you. So, you were saying stuff about this years ago, like 10 years ago, and here we are today, and it's not even a conspiracy. It's real life. I mean, it's happening to me now, and I don't know. We definitely have to do something. I have to switch my bank accounts and transfer tens of thousands of dollars and make sure Indiegogo is updated with my new bank account. So they've given me that little extra burden to do. So yes, of course, I can change banks. But ultimately, people were saying there's some sort of law, like there's some sort of association with the government that Chase has. So this actually it is illegal. It's not like there's just like a private.
Listen, the database, when there's no law to create a designation that's just random put on your account to say you're a bad person and then to put on your credit. That you're a bad person, I mean, that's fraud. I mean, that's defamation. What that is an attempt to tortuously interfere and ruin your life because, listen, I'm sure you've asked, how did you get targeted? You know about Sleeping Giants and all these other groups. The left goes around brigading. And so they think, knock me into the ground. So now NBC reports anyone just saying InfoWars or Alex Jones is next. That's NBC News. Anyone criticizing vaccines, like, hey, my daughter got killed from it, or, I went blind from it, or look, the insert says it can kill you. That's all going to be banned. It's just basically everything. And so the media's new job, these journalists aren't really journalists anymore. They organize brigades of leftists to make millions of phone calls and emails to target each person. So they also harass companies till they do this.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that in my performing professional career, them brigade and do that. But I think that I have an association with Gavin. People associate me with being on Gavin's show and stuff like that. So I think that's probably why my account was. Oh,
exactly, because they're really scared of Proud Boys. Why do you think they're so scared of Proud Boys and you would dare go on the Founder's show? I mean, guys that stand up to people that beat up women and children and defensively defend women and children. There's nothing worse, is there?
No, I mean, trying to venerate the housewife and just have a simple, little men's club. I mean, what's wrong with that? You can't have a men's club nowadays. It's insane. But yeah, I'm associated to him. And so now everyone just constantly, they've been doing it in the Comicsgate too. They've been targeting and saying, she's a Proud Boy, even though I'm a woman, and trying to say that that's the reason why I'm some sort of Nazi or white supremacist or something.
Well, I mean, you're not anti-male. And so that's why you're bad.
Yeah. No, I support men for being men, and I have a totally different duty as a woman, and that's what I portray in the comic books as well. That's what's been going on in the scene, is that, I don't know if you've noticed, but they've been trying to defeminize women in the comic book industry.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that when we come back. Start getting into that. They want to take the real power from women and create these sexless blobs. And why is that? Because they don't want men being powerful men. They don't want women being powerful. They don't want us in our powerful roles.
Yeah, it's just one big hodgepodge of non-gendered things, and they get very angry about it in the comics industry. They don't want women to be feminine, and I think that's the most anti-feminist thing I can think of.
Well, my wife walked out of the house today in a black trench coat and black high-heel boots, and I thought I was going to fall over. I mean, she knows about the feminine and just is dripping with it, and I just can't believe that they've convinced women to turn that power loose. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Stay with us with our guest, and we have another powerful woman joining us, Faith Goldy. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, another woman the enemy fears. We'll have both on together, and we'll ask him why women are under attack.
Getting your protein has never been easier with InfoWars Life Protein Bars. Available in delicious chocolate, peanut butter, and vanilla coconut flavors, these protein bars are the perfect answer for a snack on the go. InfoWars Life Protein Bars are nutrient-packed, portable protein bars for an easy-to-eat and great-tasting meal. Pre- or post-workout fuel alternative. At just 240 calories per bar and 15 grams of protein each, these bars will be your favorite at-hand snack for at home, in the car, at work, or on the go. For getting nutrients easily. High in fiber and nutrients with wholesome ingredients for high-level performance with great taste, such as whey protein and chocolate compounds. These protein bars can help you with the boost you need to reach your goals. Protein-packed and full of fiber and healthy ingredients, InfoWars Life Protein Bars are a can't-miss snack for any InfoWarrior serious about their energy. Try both flavors today at InfoWarsStore.com.
Crashing through the lies and disinformation. It's Alex Jones.
Well, we got so much to talk about here. Faith Goldy ran for mayor. She was in third place out of 30-something people. Going towards number one, they banned her advertising on the internet, on radio, on TV. They've been taking her off the internet everywhere. We have Martina Markota as well, and she is a artist and performer and writer and comic book author and a bunch of other successful things. She's been on the show before. She also goes out as a journalist and covers the insanity of the leftist here in the U.S. and also in Europe. And so I wanted to get Faith Goldy back on because she recently got married and has been out of commission, but she's back to talk about what's going on in Canada. But meanwhile, they've got nationwide gun confiscation about to be announced. We've got people running around talking about national gun confiscation here. We've got all this censorship happening, but people are fighting back with the yellow vest. What is the state of the world? You just traveled Europe, Faith Goldy.
Well, I'd say that the regular guy rebellion is in full swing and that Canada has not been spared. As you mentioned, Alex, just in that our Justin Trudeau is about to announce what sounds like a nationwide handgun ban. They've paraded around all the victims from various terrorist attacks who are now saying that law-abiding gun owners are somehow to blame for the firearms that were used, the illegal firearms that were used. And of course, Alex, as you covered dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of times on your program, we all know what this means. We've read this textbook in history before. We know that gun confiscation eventually leads essentially to an open playing field for the tyrant. And what's so interesting about this, and I would say a word to the wise for you Yanks, so to speak, south of the 49th, is this. The guns that they're coming after here in Canada, they're called restricted firearms, i.e. they are on a registry. And Alex, time and time again, folks within the pro-gun, pro-2A community say that registration leads to confiscation, and Canada right now is standing on the brink with this gun-grabbing, tyrannical, far-left so-called post-national government any day now due to release a report. They're priming the populace right now by getting the victims out there saying we want a nationwide handgun ban, telling us that the report is about to come out, and they're saying that action thereafter might be imminent.
Well, let's not forget, when Trump declared a national emergency that's constitutional for the border, the Democrats, both Pelosi and Nadler, said, well, we'll use an emergency to take your guns. In fact, here's a clip of Nadler just last Friday.
If the president can declare an emergency today on this the Democratic president can decide that, as you mentioned, the 40,000 people a year killed in this country is a crisis, and why don't we take everybody's guns away, or force everybody to register their guns, or ban all assault rifles, or do all of that?
Martina Markota riding shotgun with us here with Faith Goldy. And again, your website's martinamarkota.com. Faith Goldy sites, faithfortoronto.ca, and at Twitter at Faith Goldy. It's important to go to their sites themselves, folks. That's where you have to go now to actually get to people because everything's being massively censored. Your take on this, why do you think, I'm going to ask Goldy this, why do you think the left's gone from denying they want the guns to admitting it, denying they want to sexualize children, now admitting it, denying they want to destroy the family, now admitting it? I want to ask you both what you brought up for the break. Why are they so afraid of powerful, smart, good-looking, feminine women? Because they're jealous of it. But I want to get your take on, first, the guns. Why do you think the left's being so out in the open now?
Well, I mean, I think that they can do that now. This is what they've always thought, but they have to do it slowly, you know? They start slow, and then now they're at the point where they can do those things, and it's just obvious. That's what I think.
That's it. I mean, that's it. They're making their move. They think it's time to do it. Faith, what do you think?
That Martina is completely right. And hi, Martina. Nice to see you here in 2D. Well, you know, look, this is what we talk about all the time, the Overton window. You know, it needs to be shifted in order to move around the perimeter, so to speak, of what we deem as acceptable within society. I remember before, for instance, the New York legislation about abortion, I'm pro-lifer, I'm unabashed about that, saying they don't care about term limits. They know what they're doing. They don't think this is a clump of cells. They know that they're out here killing babies. These people are spawns of Satan. And sure enough, now they've come out into full force because the populace have become so deprogrammed from reality and programmed into a complete vortex of untruths and lies that we're to hear more lies, to hear complete evil, to hear complete essentially advocacy for murder no longer shocks us as it would have, frankly, our forefathers. And the exact same thing is happening right now with firearms. Alex, it's just a registry. It's just a registry. It's just to make sure that we can keep track of where all the big, bad, scary guns are.
And then now I'm reading the Toronto paper. I'm reading the national paper. I'm reading Economist. And it's like, yeah, gun confiscation to begin. We just showed the headline for TV viewers. They're actually saying we're going to confiscate the guns. And folks go, well, that's only Canada. No. The New York Times, the case for repealing the Second Amendment. And I agree with you, Faith. They're pushing the envelope.
Well, I think that exactly if they started, sorry, I was just going to say that I think if they started with this stuff back then, they never would have gotten anything. You know, they wouldn't have their way an inch. But the fact that they start slow, small, and then now they can increment all the way up to this point.
So what comes next to both of you?
It's a scary question, Alex. You know, I wish I was wrong for what comes next. My answers along the way, my 10 years of reporting, journalism, commentary, I wish I was wrong every time I try to warn people of what comes next. But let me tell you, we now have an international, both temporal and frankly, as far as I'm concerned, a spiritual war between good and evil. And they are now personified as the nationalists versus the globalists. And the globalists are damn terrified because of organizations like yourself, like where Martina is, with the Daily Caller, with the Rebel Media, with the democratization of data that is slowly pulling people from the matrix and saying, hold on a second, we've been lied to, hold on a second, all this do-goodery that we've been saying that we've been doing for the rest of the world is actually having a negative effect on your family, on your community, on your country. And what happens when the powerful feel threatened is that they begin to do things like censorship, like taking away those things which make us, the little guy, the regular guy, frankly, the masses, powerful. That includes our freedom of speech, our freedom of consciousness, and indeed our right to defend ourselves. And in this case, it's to bear arms, if you will. So what comes after that? Well, if we're impotent, so to speak, to do anything about protecting our heritage, our present, and our children's future, well, then we are giving these guys, again, a wide open field to execute their will. And we've seen what their will is.
I totally agree. So let me ask you both this, and we'll come back for break and talk more about it. If the end game is absolute tyranny, they're coming after the First Amendment, Second Amendment, right to bear arms all over the world. We see that almost as a negative thing, and it is negative they're doing it, but the fact that we've been so successful, we'll talk about Yellow Vest when we come back and other movements, other nationalist movements, the fact that we've pushed their timetable forward and made them take the velvet glove off, I see that as very, very positive that we force them into their more aggressive actual posture.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that we need to start doing more things like what Faith did, is go into, like, do our own long march into the institutions, get into positions of government, try, get into educational institutions, start teaching people, the children and stuff. I'm involved in the arts, so we got to get back into arts and culture, Hollywood and all that. So if we can start infiltrating the way that they did back into the institutions, we can gain control again, and definitely in government. I mean, just go run for office, do something, do what Faith did,
And by the way, even though she lost, we're talking about this, she was an international sensation, got bigger than she ever was, showed them censor her, showed all this evil, and it really illustrated what was happening. So if people run again and again and again, it will break their back. Resistance is victory. If you lay down, they win. If you keep fighting, you get stronger, they lose. Don't adapt to being oppressed. Fight back against the oppression and defeat it. We're not victims. We're winners. We're victors.